I was formerly a banker, and I first met David back, that would have been probably in the 80s. His family had a True Value hardware store, and they were a customer of ours. So I first knew him as a business person before I realized what an incredible talent, literary talent he was.
I would describe David as a man with the soul of a poet and a child's sense of wonder about the world. And he just carries that into his relationships with children and adults.
Back in the day when we first met, I believe he was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, or maybe earlier, and writing until he had to go off and do a full day's work at Glenstone Block.
There are so many contributions that he's made to the community. He, first of all, I think, has made it fun to read poetry again. He has lifted up young writers as early as elementary school who are striving to be writers or poets, and he has made them celebrities. David gave a program at the library several years ago, and it was just about poetry, and families were invited, so there were little children as well as parents. He filled the library center auditorium. And in the midst of it, a little girl raised her hand with a question, and she said that she had written a poem for him. As David always does, he stopped what he was doing and said, well, why don't you come up here on the stage and read it to us? And so she very willingly went up there, and he sat on the stage with her and had her read her poem into the microphone, and of course everyone applauded. That's the kind of person he is. He just welcomes all children and all adults who are interested in writing.
One of the many things I appreciate about him and admire about him is his ideas. He's always thinking, what could I do to help children learn better, to read better? And fortunate, I just have always found it fortunate that he called me to ask my opinion from time to time.
I would describe David as a percolator. He is always percolating ideas for poems, ideas for stories, ideas about how to make the world interesting, fun, no matter what age level you are.
David Harrison has many years of writing experience, starting with multiple tries to publish a children's picture book that finally ended in the success of The Boy with the Drum, and moved through picture books to various kinds of nonfiction, and then poetry, I believe, is the last addition to his genre, to his work, and it just seems to keep getting better and more successful. And all the while that he has been writing and being creative, he's also held full-time jobs.
Well, I think of him as a Springfieldian and the Springfieldian audience, but I forget is he's got an audience all across the country, probably across the world, that are fans of his. So again, to have that voice representing our state and representing us, I think it brings a different dynamic because he's bringing it to us from that fresh, wide-eyed perspective of children.
He is quite the Renaissance man. And at the same time, being on the school board, eventually president of the school board, doing marvelous work to raise money for the Springfield libraries. He told me that it wasn't until he retired that he felt he was a full-time writer. But all through those years, he was very, very productive and quite successful.